All right, so let's talk a little bit about, not a little bit, let's get in depth here with a more advanced version of a sonata exposition section. We're going to dig into this Beethoven piece. This is his Sonata number 1, traditionally number 1 in F minor, Opus 2 number 1. So make sure that you've listened through the exposition section of this piece, that you followed along with the score, so you have a feel for what we're going to be looking at here. And even I would probably recommend take a crack before you even watch through this sort of discussion. Take a crack at analyzing, even just at the very basics. Where do you think the main theme is? Where do you think the transition is? Where do you think where do you think the secondary key area is? You don't have to necessarily right away have a feel for how many ska sections are there, what kind of cadences are there, that type of thing. But you do want to have an overall feel and get the knack of finding sort of the big picture ideas here. And we'll get better and better at finding these small little details. So here we go. So this is the F minor sonata. It's got this nice little main theme, or nice little beginning here. Right. And of course we know that since this is right at the top, we know that this is our main theme. So the question for us is, how long does the main theme last? So I'm just going to pop this down here, and I'm going to say that it's measures 1 through question mark, right? We don't exactly know how long it is, but this is an important spot to really make sure that we have a feel for the way that term main theme works, because we have the section of the main theme, which is measure 1 through somewhere. We'll figure that out. But we also have a melody that's called the main theme, right? And that's this, right? That jumping sort of idea that then, right? Oops, sorry. Right? That's the melodic main theme. And of course, they happen at the same time. The main theme melody occurs in the main theme section. But we want to sort of watch for this melodic main theme and see how it shows up again and is developed and is transformed over the course of the piece. So important to start getting a feel for that distinction, that there's a section called the main theme, which features the melody, which is the main theme of the piece. And I know that's a little bit of an odd idea, but it's a central concept here. So, okay. So we've started out, we've got our main melodic idea here. You know, we got some chords, da, 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 right? Right. So pretty simple little harmony here. You know, we got a 1 chord, we've got a 5 chord in the next measure. It's 5 6 5. Nothing really too crazy happening here. We get another 1 chord over here at the end of this line, 1 5 1 type harmony. And so the melody is very self-referential, and then we can sort of see here sort of repeating before finally we get this idea to close it out. And this is an important first point. So we've driven along measure 6 7 8 here, and we get to this close of that idea. So pretty clearly Beethoven is ending the main theme here, and I mean, just to make sure that we don't miss it at all, there's a fermata, right? I mean, Beethoven is not trying to hide the structure of this main theme at all. Measures 1 to 8, and if there was any doubt, there's a fermata here, like clearly separating what's to come from this main theme moment. So it's important for us. We would want to go through and get the harmonies here. We're not going to do that right now, but the main thing is always to look at the cadence. And so it's important for us to first say, okay, at the end of the main theme, what key should we be in? Well, we should still be in the same key. We should be in the home key at the end of the main theme. This is the section that begins and ends in the home key, so we're expecting a cadence in the home key. And what do we get here? We have a C, E, G chord, right? Little sort of mordant trill thing, right? But it's a C chord, and so really, that's 5, And when we have a 5 chord at the cadence, we know that we would call this a half cadence. So we're getting a nice half cadence here in the home key in F minor to close out our main theme. And so those are the kinds of things that we want to pick up for main theme. Number one, use that expectation of the key structure to know where we should be tonally to end, so that we can say, okay, look, we've got a cadence in the home key. That means we're at the end of the main theme, because in the exposition section, and there's only one other place really in the entire piece that we would have this, but we're not going to get a cadence in the home key anywhere else in the exposition, particularly. So if you have a cadence in the home key, that's the end of the main theme. And we've seen examples of some confusing stuff that comes next, but that's the way that it's structured, is that the cadence in the home key ends the main theme. So we want to be looking out for the cadence. We want to be, keeping track of what kind of cadence it is. And we want to have a sense for not only what the structural main theme is, but what the melodic main theme is. And so I might do something like this. Actually, let me do it this way. That is a giant box. I'll sort of shrink that down a little bit. There we go. That's a little better. And what I might do is put a little rectangle around some of the things that I think might be important, might come up again. And so this arpeggiated figure, that seems like something, and because Beethoven even repeats it here, right? That's central to the main theme melody. And I'm going to put another little rectangle around this sort of falling, right, kind of idea, because he starts to repeat that a bunch of times, right? That sort of turn idea, dum-ba-da-bum. So those two things are kind of central to the main theme melody. We might call those motifs. Those are the motifs of the main theme melody. You might also hear the term fragment. It's a melodic fragment. But these are the things that I might want to point out or pick out of the main theme. So starting with that. Okay, so let's continue on. Now, what should happen next after the main theme? We just had a cadence in the home key, and so we're expecting now to go into the transition. And one of the things that, again, I really think is interesting about Beethoven is that in most cases, Beethoven really wants us to be able to follow the structure pretty clearly, because we know the transition section is all about showing and showcasing and working through that motion to the secondary key. So we end with a very, very straightforward cadence here in the home key. Then we got our fermata, and what happens next? Okay, so first of all, what musical material is Beethoven using there? Well, let's get the old rectangle out. That's my new phrase. Let's get the old rectangle out, right? He's using that main theme melodic fragment, right? Here's our main theme again. He's actually got both of the ones that I highlighted. And so we've got the main theme being reused, which is a very, very common technique in the transition section. So even though we've got the main theme melody happening here, we are in the transition section, and one of the most clear-cut ways for us to tell that we are not in the main theme section is the key center, because our main theme, back up here, is in F minor, the home key. But what key are we in here? We are in C minor. Oops. And so we're sort of in the key of minor 5, right? So we are not at all where we would expect to be, right? Oops, what is happening here? There we go. So we're in C minor here, which is really interesting. So we know the transition is all about leaving the home key. Beethoven does that so clearly that it just happens right out of the gate. we've seen the Haydn examples where, yes, we use the main theme melody at the beginning of the transition, but it was in the home key, and then we moved away. But Beethoven is not really trying to be coy about what's happening. So that's what happens here at the beginning, because we're really trying to be clear-cut about what key we're in. So we start off, right? And then we get into this really, really lovely kind of chorale imitative section. Right, with this beautiful moving parts. I don't remember what the next chord is. I also forgot that I had the music right here. Right, so we sort of have this lovely little spot here where, again, Beethoven is clearly contrasting the material that we're hearing here with the main theme, right? Even just think about the rhythmic elements, right? This strong sort of left hand pattern. And even when it starts to move, even when we sort of get away, even here. Right. All kinds of fun extra notes for you there, right? We're moving. And then in this transition, it's so different. Right? This is a different character altogether. We'll talk about that in a sec. But this different character here is all about showcasing and clearly communicating where we are. So, speaking of where we are, what is the goal? Let me just write transition. What is the goal of the transition section? We know it starts here in measure 9, right? But how will we know where the transition ends? How will we know when we've arrived at the end of the transition? What's the musical goal? Well, the goal is to get to the secondary key. So, big question here that we should be thinking of all times when we're looking at a sonata is, what is the secondary key for this sonata? And so if we're starting in F minor is the home key, right? F minor. What's the secondary key? It's going to be A flat major. It's going to be the relative major key, always. So we want to be on the lookout for motion towards A flat major. Now, we certainly don't have it here because we're doing C minor things, but we want to sort of see, can any of this motion in this beautiful little section here be heard as pushing us towards A flat major? What about that? Yeah, you can kind of almost hear this as, look, we got F minor to B flat minor, E flat, which is 5 of A flat. So we really do kind of have this beautiful motion here where we've got chords that are in the key of A flat. We sort of have a little pivot type thing here. And again, we're loosening a lot of the reins here. We're not going to be seeing modulations in particular that are quite as textbook necessarily, but we've got the motion sort of moving away, slowly getting ourselves down here. And so by the time we're down on this line here, if we were thinking about A flat major as our goal, we could hear this B flat minor chord as 2, this E flat dominant 7th chord as almost like a 5, 4, 3 before getting to a really lovely 1 chord in A flat major, right? So we're certainly, we started out with a C minor suggestion, but we're moving pretty clearly towards A flat major. But the question is the transition over there just because we hit an A flat major chord? What should we be listening for? To know that we're at the end of the transition section. Well, we should always be listening for cadences. And to my mind, and you can clearly tell the way he's using this 4/3 chord here, oops, this isn't exactly a cadence. And instead, right, we're continuing on. So this repeating idea, oops, and then one last time for good luck. That's a much stronger cadential idea that Beethoven is using here. So even though we get to 1 here, because this is not a cadence. Oh my goodness, I can't even see how I spelled that. Close, right? Not a cadence. This is not a cadence, right? We hit 1, sure, but it's not cadential, right? It doesn't have that feeling of closure, and part of that has to do with the 5/4/3 chord. So we get to 1, but it's not a cadence, and instead we sort of travel through this repeated idea here. So let's just quickly look at what that is, right? We've got sort of a D flat, F, and then we can sort of hear that C as suspension. So B flat would be in the chord, right? So if we just look right here, it's the same thing 3 times in a row. We got D flat, F, B flat. And so in A flat major, that's going to be a 2/6 chord, right? It's a 2/6 chord. The only change here, really, we got our 2/6 chord, D natural, and A flat. The D natural is the leading tone of E flat. Is there any reason we would be pointing towards E flat when we're trying to get close to A flat major? Yeah, E flat is 5. So this is really just like a 5/6/5 of 5 kind of motion here. So we got 5/6/5 of 5, and then 5, which means that when we do finally finish out this group of 3 here, right? So we end with our 1 chord, and then here's 2/6, 5/6 of 5, 2/6, 5/6 of 5, 2/6, 5/6/5 of toe. And you can hopefully hear that we have a different thing going on here in measure 20. So we had this 2/6, 5/6 of 5, and 5 stuff. Let's sort of copy that and bring it all down here. And I hear this as, especially with the repetition, as another cadence. Even though it continues on, even though the motion continues, harmonically, you can sort of hear that it stops here. And so, what did I just do? We would consider this to be a half cadence on 5. Getting fancy here. I already have that. 2 V's never hurt us, right? A half cadence here on 5 in A flat major, which is the end of our transition. So transition 9 to 20. So again, we're using our understanding of musical structures like cadences and our knowledge of what the key setup should be, the key map almost, or the pattern should be. We know that we should get to the key of A flat major here, but we also know that it's not just when we first hear an A flat major chord or seem to be acting like we're in A flat major. It's about a cadence in the secondary key to end the transition. So that happens here in measure 20. So that's the main theme and the transition of this piece, and we're going to check back in a second about the secondary key area. But hopefully that gives you an idea what to be on the look for with those sections.